This Valentine's Day, in conversation with Priya Malik, poet and storyteller, talking about all things love and relationships. Priya, you are one of the most loved poets of today's time.
Thank you.
Tell us a little about your childhood. How were you as a kid? And when is it that you knew that poetry was, meant for you?
I was a very rebellious kid,
Okay.
big chatterbox. I was that little girl who would not want to listen to no and always questioned everything. मतलब जो मम्मी पापा कहेंगे ये नहीं करना है प्रिया वही जाके करेगी.
Oh boy.
And I always wanted reasoning. I always wanted to ask ये ऐसे क्यों वो ऐसे क्यों. And not just about serious topics, but even like in general, like if somebody would tell me to do something, I would ask for a reasoning. My teachers didn't like that very much. But I think that really shaped who I am as a person now. So that's what my childhood has been all about, yes.
And when was it that you realized
Oh,
the poetry?
Very early on in life. So I've always been a speaker. I think the first time I got on stage, I must be 5 or 6 years old. And at that time, we used to do elocutions in school. So I would get up on stage and I would recite other people's poems. You know, the famous ones.
Yes.
The Old Man and the Sea, Oh Captain, My Captain, even the Hindi ones, Hawa Hu Hawa Mein Basanti Hawaon. So bachpan se I've also been a bilingual performer.
Okay.
But also, I loved poetry. English literature and Hindi literature were my favorite subjects. But growing up in a middle class family, I never looked at it as a career. I always thought this is a hobby. This is something on the side. And I would I started writing my own poetry at around 12, 13 as well. But then again, I had fallen in love. And that's why I was writing my own poems. So again, I looked at it as something which is not a career.
Oh, so it's true when they say that love, the starting point for a poet is always a big emotion.
Yeah, you know how in Rockstar they say कि
Yes,
दिल टूटता है तो संगीत निकलता है.
absolutely.
I think that's true in my case with poetry. And that's the most pure, innocent form of love as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When you are that age, 12,
Yes, of
13. I remember we used to stand in the assembly line, and the only thing that used to happen throughout the day, the interaction was that we would look at each other when everyone else was praying. And that's when the poems started coming out. So I knew that poetry is a very integral part of my life, but I did not realize it for 3 decades as to how integral it can be and how I can take it up as a career.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you recite, one of your favorite poems for us?
Sure.
A few lines.
Sure. So it's called Mujhe Pyar Nahi Ishq Chahiye.
Okay.
And I'll recite a couple of lines for you. मुझे मत कहो कि समाज में आदमी और औरत में कोई फ़र्क है. मुझे मत कहो कि समाज में आदमी और औरत में कोई फ़र्क है. मेरे साथ बैठो और ये बताओ क्या इस बात में कोई तर्क है. हमारे रिश्ते में कोई पाबंदी नहीं, ना हो रजामंदी की मुराद. हम फ़कत अपने में खोए हुए नहीं, हम हो होशमंद और आबाद. क्योंकि इश्क वो नहीं जो दो लोगों के बीच में लाए दूरियां. इश्क वो नहीं जिसमें हो रंजिशें और ईर्ष्या. इश्क वो नहीं जिसमें दिल में सिर्फ हो दर्द और मजबूरियां. इश्क वो है जो दे इनायत. दैट मीन्स कंपैशन, काइंडनेस तेरे मेरे दरमियां. तो अगर सुन रहे हैं तो ये सुनिए और इस बात को पहचानिए. मुझे प्यार नहीं इश्क चाहिए. मुझे प्यार नहीं इश्क चाहिए.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Since you're a poet, there's one question that I absolutely have to ask you. What is love according to you, and how is that shaped? I'm asking this. You also said that you fell in love when you were 12.
Yeah.
So how's that shaped your entire journey through the years?
I feel प्यार परवाह है, and the word parvah is a very important word in my dictionary because it signifies care.
Yes.
You have there has to be that sense of caring with the person that you love, no matter who it is, not just romantic relationships. मम्मी पापा हमारी परवाह करते हैं क्योंकि प्यार करते हैं. भाई बहन हमारी परवाह करते हैं क्योंकि प्यार करते हैं. Friends love us because there is that parvah.
Yes.
So I've always said कि प्यार परवाह है. Love is caring for each other without having to ask for it or need it or beg for it. It's a given. It should always be there.
And this feeling and thought has been the same for you since you were 12 and now?
It has actually,
That's
yes,
amazing.
yes. I've obviously become better and evolved in my ideas of love.
Yeah.
Like I would no longer try to love someone who's emotionally unavailable, which is a phase that I think unfortunately all of us go through, regardless of gender. So I started early, Ruchi. I started at 12. So 30 tak aate aate, I think I had kind of evolved my own idea and definition of love. And I think it is one thing to know what you want in a relationship. By the time I met my husband, I think I knew what I did not want in a relationship. And that has been a very powerful and empowering process for me. Yeah. You know, I got married for the first time when I was 21. And I felt like I knew what I was doing. I was in love. But then I realized that there are more things to a marriage. There are more things to a relationship. And I think by the time we parted ways very amicably, I think I had grown up and I knew what I did not want.
Yeah, every element of our life teaches us.
Absolutely.
You got married to the love of your life very recently.
Yes.
How's that been?
Beautiful. It's been almost 1.5 years now. We just celebrated our first anniversary and life has never been happier. Yeah. I'm
Amazing.
blessed.
Priya, how, you know, in your marriage, how do you divide work at home? There's who does the dishes on most days?
You know, that's the most beautiful part, and I'm not just saying it because everyone's listening. Karan and I have never, ever had to have this discussion. So we moved in before we got married. And this was around 2018 that we had moved in together. And the initial relationship issues are always there when you move in with someone. I call them the roommate issues. So the roommate issues happen, but you can't make roommate issues into relationship issues. Roommate issues are like, तुमने towel यहाँ क्यों टांग दिया, you know, or या फिर dustbin ऐसे नहीं ऐसे रखना है. Those conversations have happened, but it has never been like, why are you not doing or owning up to what you are supposed to do in the house? Karan and I have always had a very unsaid understanding कि अगर घर चलना है तो वो दो लोग अगर रह रहे हैं तो दोनों लोग काम करेंगे. You know, we are expecting a family very soon. तो जब 3 लोग होंगे तो 3 लोग काम करेंगे. Like that's how it has always been in our house. So those conversations, touch wood, never happened. And during COVID was the best example because no house help. Nobody's coming to do work for you. So we just had this innate, unsaid understanding. If I'm cooking, he's doing the dishes. If I'm cleaning, he's doing the washing. It was just normal, natural, and a part of who we are. And I appreciate that, but I don't glorify that because I think that's what partners are all about.
Yeah, I think it's very well said that you said these are roommate issues because they really are that. You know, when we move into a hostel, it's automatic anyway. So you know that's exactly how marriages should be, and you know so congratulations on the news, by the way.
Thank you. Even animals clean up after themselves. Like you know, my cat. Like when my cat goes to poop and pee. I have a very intelligent cat. She actually even tries to get the toilet paper down and she uses the washroom, not the litter. So I feel that if animals are taking responsibility of their own self, of their hunting, of their cleaning up, then as human beings, it should just be something so basic. Yeah, the idea of chore neutrality, I think, is very important when you're living with someone.
So you're saying you've never had to ask your husband for like help?
Ever.
Amazing.
I kid you not.
That's amazing, and you're right. That's how it should be. I mean, you know, I shouldn't even have to say that's amazing. I should be saying, of course, that's natural.
Although, you know, my husband's mom was quite surprised. Let me talk about that. So she came over to live with us for the first time, and she saw Karan making tea in the morning. Karan makes the morning tea. I make the evening tea. I usually wake up late, and he wakes up before me. So he's making tea, and his mom is looking at him, admiring him in the kitchen. And then while we are having tea, she comes to me. She's like, मैंने आज तक नहीं देखा अपने बेटे को चाय बनाते हुए. Not in a bad way. She meant it in a good way. That wow, I can see my son doing things. And I'm like, क्यों mama? Like this should have happened. I was like, this is not something that is outlandish. And I think she kind of got used to the idea of how our home functions. And then she talked about how she wished her husband and her were doing the same thing in the house, which I think should be every house.
Absolutely. So, you know, the thing that goes around saying is that we need to educate our sons for an equal marriage.
Yes.
And that's really the root of this, which is probably why, you know, your mom-in-law was a bit surprised because
Yeah.
it's just not been, but things are changing.
Yeah.
And that's for the good that, women and men in the house are going to do everything together equally.
Absolutely.
Do your own thing. Come on.
Yes.
Like, wake up and do your own
And
thing.
it's not just a gender specific issue either.
yeah.
Like I grew up in a family where we were not taught to do household chores.
Okay.
Would you believe that? Because my mother always thought that, oh my God, my daughters will grow up, they'll be well educated, and they will afford having people, house help coming and doing it for them.
Yeah.
I never learned how to cook. I never learned how to clean. And then I went to Australia at 21, and I realized I have to learn how to do
Everything,
this,
yeah.
and this is basic and I should know it. These are life skills. And that's when I learned to cook, I learned to clean, I cleaned my own pots, I cleaned my own pans, so did my ex-husband. It was just a natural, organic way of doing. So when I have children, regardless of the gender, they will have to have their equality of chores is going to be there, That's just, I think from early on. Okay, you're crawling, let's start.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you, Priya, for joining us today. It's been lovely chatting with you. This conversation is brought to you by SheThePeople.tv in association with Vim India with Love. Vim encourages these dishwashing for all conversations where it's all about owning your own dishes.